So, a very good evening to all of you and those who are joining us from elsewhere. A very good morning, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. I'm so happy to be introducing my dear friend Shahid to our forum today. And those who go for hikes and treks and mountaineering, I'm sure they must have encountered Shahid somewhere. He's a trained mountaineer and a very passionate one. So you see, with mountains, it's very important. You can get trained in a couple of things, but you need to be somebody else to, take it to the next level. And I feel that Shahid is that person. So those of you who love the mountains, you should definitely meet Shahid and go on a trek with him because he's just amazing. The kind of, I've introduced him as the Bear Grill of the Himalaya. I hope someday he's known as the Shahid Khan of the Himalayas, right? And he is from the Himalayas. He is from Chamba, and he has scaled many peaks, which he'll be talking about. And today I've invited him to the Himalayan Institute of Cultural and Heritage Studies because I feel that all of us who are anthropologists, art historians, geologists, or archaeologists, and when we work in the Himalayas, it's just not enough to work there that, oh, I'm in the Himalayas now that I can work. You have to navigate your way through. You have to understand the pulse of the mountain as well. This is a landscape that is a force to reckon with. People die, not knowing what to do. People don't know how to handle things if they're caught in a situation, how to deal with all of these things, with the climbing, with the navigation, with the mapping. Shahid will open that Pandora's box for you today. And Shahid has been trained, and I'm going to leave it to Shahid to explain, to tell us all about his background, because I feel that is the spirit that he comes here with, all that training and all that passion that he carries in himself. So, Shahid, over to you. And just a caveat, Shahid's place in Chamba has just witnessed a blackout. So he is enlightening us with his lamp as we speak. And if there is any glitch, please bear with us. And at this point, please put your mics off and your screens off so that we give the entire bandwidth to Shahid. Shahid, over to you.
Thank you, Sonali, for your words and introducing me. So before I proceed ahead, I would like to share my presentation. And as I go through the presentation, I'll proceed ahead with my talk.
Perfect. And I also want to add that Shahid has his own company called Mountain Nights. So I forgot to mention that. You should definitely check out his Insta handle and his Facebook handle as well. So there he goes. So it just make it full screen.
All
Yeah,
right.
perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Based upon your time zones, welcome to our talk today and webinar today. So today we have come over here for knowing about what's the right approach towards the Himalayas and specifically about map reading and navigation. We will be talking about that gradually, but little bit about myself, how I became a mountaineer and what all my mountaineering journey has been about. So I started my mountaineering journey in 2013. Before that, I was working in the corporates. I was working in IBM. So due to my personal inclinations and my personal priorities, I decided to go for mountaineering. So I started in 2013 with some of the mountaineering courses available in India's premier mountaineering institutes. So I started with basic mountaineering course which I completed from Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Mountaineering, which is in Manali, Himachal Pradesh. And thereafter in 2014, I did my advanced mountaineering course, and so on. I completed my search and rescue course, a method of instruction course, which is a certification course for becoming a mountaineering instructor. So my final course, that is the method of instruction course, got finished in 2018. So till that time, I was doing my mountaineering courses, and simultaneously, I was doing my mountaineering expeditions. So since 2013, I started my mountaineering journey, and my first peak was in 2014. Till 2019, I summited about 13 peaks in total, and most of them have been of 6,000 meters and 7,000 meters of altitude. So the list is not very long, but I would consider it sufficient for now. So my latest summit was Mount Rishul, which is in Uttarakhand, of 7,000 meters plus altitude. So gradually, when I completed my mountaineering instructor course, I decided to join the institutes, mountaineering institutes, as a mountaineering instructor. I worked as a mountaineering instructor in a couple of the institute, starting from Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Mountaineering Allied Sports in Manali. Then I went to Himalayan Institute of Mountaineering, which is in Darjeeling, West Bengal. Then National Institute of Mountaineering and Allied Sports, which is in Arunachal Pradesh. And then I also worked in Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, Uttarkashi. So in all these premier mountaineering institutes, I trained the individuals in adventure courses, basic mountaineering courses, advanced mountaineering courses, search and rescue courses. So now many people, in my friend circle, when I opted for mountaineering, and still they wondered why I chose for mountaineering. So they just had this curiosity to know what was it that I left my, handsome, good paying salary job and went for mountaineering. So my reasons were very simple. First of all, I wanted to seek challenges as per my ability, so that I come out as a better person in terms of overall personality, and to empower myself. And my way of empowering myself was to learn new skills, the skills that I wanted to learn, and as a result of which finally feel more confident about my overall existence. So, and like I said, come out as a better person out of hardships. Why hardships? Because mountaineering itself is a very physically and mentally challenging task. And when you decide to teach others, you got to be able to do it, and simultaneously you got to be able to make them do. That makes the task overall more challenging. So when you accept those challenges, you come out of comfort zone, you interact with diverse teams in a varying environment, all the howling winds and freezing temperatures. You are definitely going through something that's quite hard. And when you complete the task without compromising the decorum and as per the expectations, you definitely come out as a better person. So that was the overall motive, because of which I opted to go for mountaineering. Right. So once I started doing this, I could see the effect of mountaineering and my journey very soon on personality. First of all, like I said, I had a renewed level of confidence, because now I was absolutely out of my comfort zone. I was absolutely, submitted to adversaries, and dealing with them, learning new skills definitely made me very confident in terms of my overall abilities. It improved my mental and physical stamina, because like I said, mountaineering is very physically and mentally challenging task. So hence, when you want to do it up to the mark, it has that added advantage on your personality and your mental as well as physical fitness. And the most important thing was that improved leadership qualities. Now I wanted to choose mountaineering to get opportunities to take leadership roles. So once I had the opportunity to take leadership roles, it definitely improved me a lot. It improved my leadership qualities, because I was actually in the mid of the situation, dealing with the things myself practically, and hence it had that effect on me. Now, skills to share and help others improve themselves. Now, when I had new skills, definitely I had something to give it back to the people, give it back to society. You cannot just give anything to them. My way of giving back is empower people by teaching them new skills. Now, those who were interested in mountaineering, I always did my best to deliver whatever knowledge I had. So this was all about my mountaineering journey. Then came a chance for me to become an instructor. So then the question arises, many people started asking me why as an instructor. So my goals were very simple: to continue whatever I have learned, to continue the learning, because when you teach, you learn yourself. And like I said, to continue teaching, because I wanted to give it back to the students, people, those who wanted to improve themselves, they wanted to experience the leadership in them. I wanted to help them. And like I said, to help create leaders, because if you have something that is really empowering, if I talk about myself, I would like to give it back to the people so that they come out as the same person. Like there's a saying, leaders create leaders. I try to follow that particular protocol. So it was a beautiful journey. I trained a lot of people, and it was very satisfying for me at the same time. Okay, now coming to the point of our, why we have come over here. That is, why do we need to prepare for mountains? Why it is so important to prepare for the mountains specifically? Let's proceed ahead, and I'll tell you all the aspects associated with the preparations towards mountaineering. Uh, Although it's going to be a little theoretical over here, but that's all the webinar is all about. Later on, if you feel like coming over for practicals, definitely you're welcome to do so. But right now, a lot of things will be practical oriented, theoretical oriented. Okay, so why prepare well for mountains? Well, you need to understand that once you are in the mountains, you are subjected to a lot of hazards. And now hazards can be divided into two categories, that is subjective as well as objective hazards. Now subjective hazards are those hazards which are caused by your own body. For example, overconfidence is the first hazard. Once you're overconfident, you are entering into a big trouble as far as the mountaineering is concerned. Right. Second subjective hazard, for example, is your cold injuries, your lack of nutrition, your poor physical fitness. So these are the hazards which you need to take care of. And first of all, you need to identify these hazards and you need to work upon them, right? Now, next comes the objective hazard. Now, objective hazards are those hazards which are caused due to natural calamities. For example, snowfall, avalanche, landslides. So when all these hazards are together in a situation, you need to prepare for them accordingly. Second, you need to understand that you are away from civilization. Once you're away from civilization, definitely you're away from your comfort zone. You're away from your telephone lines. You're away from all sort of facilities that are available in the civilized location. You are on your own. You're living off the land. Hence, you need to prepare accordingly. Third and the most important thing is that you are under the effect of high altitude. Now, when I say high altitude, you need to understand that you are in an environment where the oxygen is less. When I say oxygen is less, the molecules of oxygen per unit volume is less. The atmosphere is thin. Hence, the physical exertion will be much more as expected. So every step will be like walking a mile. Hence, it will drain your energy more than you can ever imagine. So hence, you need to prepare for the worst. Now, there are a lot of finance involved in mountaineering. I remember when we were being trained, our teachers told us that mountaineering is M cube, mind, muscles, and money. A lot of money involved in mountaineering. So, let's say if you are leaving for an expedition and due to your carelessness or due to your lack of preparedness, the entire expedition fails, the entire finance is gone. So, you need to take care of these particular aspect as well. And like I said, a lot of physical efforts involved. It's not just you, a lot of physical effort involved of your team at the same time. So you need to take care of not only of yourself, but also you need to take into consideration that a lot of people have invested their time, money, and a lot of physical effort in this whole expedition. For example, tomorrow if you're going for a research work, so it's not just physical, it's a lot of finance, it's a lot of mental work together. So you need to take care of all these aspects collectively. So that's why you need to prepare very well, especially before heading towards the mountains. Okay, what is the better approach to the mountains? First of all, you need to understand that whenever you proceed towards a particular place, right, I would recommend that you do a basic research about that place. Now, let's imagine a scenario where you're heading towards Himalaya, and what is the right approach towards proceeding the Himalayas? Right over here, I would like to give you a brief, information about the Himalaya. Although I'm sure you must be aware of the Himalaya in more detail. Just I'll let you know in the brief. Well, Himalaya, as the name suggests, it's a combination of two words. Him means snow and alias means dwelling. Literally means abode of the snow. Right. It is a mountain range in Asia, and you all need to know about the mountain Himalayas. You can find it out. But over here, like I said, we will talk only about it in brief. So general information on Himalaya. Himalaya is the youngest mountain range in the world. Like I said, highest physical feature on the earth. Its entire length is about 2040 to 2400 kilometers from west to east, and its width is about 160 kilometers. In total, there are 14 peaks above 8,000 meters in Himalaya. and 300 meters above 7,000 meters, 300 peaks above 7,600 meters. So a little bit about evolution of the Himalaya. Well, again, I'll talk about it in brief, that in geological times, it was very young time when its formation began, right? There was one particular continent by the name of Pangaea, and Pangaea was surrounded by an ocean, Panthalassa, right? Down the line, the supercontinent was separated into continents by geological forces. The southern continent was called as Gondwana lands, South Africa, India, Australia, and Antarctica, who were part of it, right? And the northern continent was Laurasia. So about 130 million years ago, India separated from rest of the Gondwana lands, right? Started moving northwards, making the Tethyan Sea narrow gradually. You all must be aware about this particular thing. And the movement occurred at the pace of 10 to 15 centimeters per year. So let's talk a little bit about topographical divisions of the Himalayas. Well, Himalaya can be divided into outer, middle, and higher Himalayas. Okay, let's talk about the outer one, which is the lower Himalaya. In other words, average altitude is 1,000 to 13,000 meters, the youngest of all the mountains, and it is most densely populated. Right, it is a home to some of the wildlife animals like tigers, leopard, deer, and others. Next is the lesser Himalaya. Average height is about 3,500 to 4,500 meters, and it is the resemblance to Shivaliks. Lower slope has tropical forests, and some important hill stations like Dalhousie, Shimla, Nainital, Mussoorie, Darjeeling, Ranikhet, etc. are existing in this particular range of topographical division of Himalaya, that is lesser Himalaya. Proceeding ahead, the greater Himalaya. Greater Himalayas axis of the whole mountain system, generally aligned to Shivaliks, but not continuous. Crest height not below 5,500 meters. So from here, all the major high altitude peaks begin. Peaks above 6,000 meters, 7,000 meters, and 8,000 meters peak exist in this particular topographical division of Himalaya. Now, Himalaya can also be divided into sub-regions, right? Sub-regions include Punjab region, Garhwal and Kumaon region, Nepal, Sikkim, and Assam. When we talk about Punjab region specifically, this region of Himalaya has a length of about 592 kilometers approximately, and bounded by Indus in west and Satluj in east. Now, four major mountain basins of rivers exist over here: Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, and Beas. Major peaks of this particular region is Nanga Parbat, Nun, and Kun, for example, just to name a few. And major ranges include Pir Panjal range and Dhauladhar range. Famous shrines of this particular region, if you talk about, are Amarnath and Vaishno Devi. Now let's talk about Garhwal and Kumaon region. The length of Garhwal and Kumaon region is 352 kilometers, and it is bounded by Satluj on the west and Kali in the east, Kali River. Major peaks of this particular region are Nanda Devi, Kamet, Chaukhamba, Satopant, Mana, and Abhigaman. In fact, I have climbed some of them from this particular list, and the name of those peaks are Satopant and Abhigaman. Proceeding ahead, famous shrines of this particular region are Chardham region, that is Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, and Yamunotri. Now let's come over to the Nepal region. The length of the Nepal Himalaya is around 800 kilometers and is bounded by Kali on the west and Tista in the east. Main peaks of this region are Everest, Lhotse, Makalu, Choyu, Annapurna, etc. In fact, there are 14 peaks between 7,000 meters to 8,000 meters of altitude in this particular section of Himalaya. Now comes the Sikkim Himalaya. The length is less than 25 kilometers while we proceed towards the east, and it is bounded by Tista in the west and Brahmaputra west in the east. Main peaks of this particular region comprises Kanchenjunga and Kangbachen. Now let's talk about Assam. Assam region of Himalaya. Length is about 752 kilometers, bounded by Tista in the west and Brahmaputra east in the east. Bounded by Tista in the west and Brahmaputra in the east, like I said. And main peaks of this particular region are Kulakangri, Kangto, and Namche Barwa, etc. Okay, now let's, like we were talking about what is the right approach towards the mountains. Next comes choosing of the right team. Now you have done basic research about the Himalayas, basic information about the Himalayas. Now let's talk about the team, because always remember that going in the Himalayas is all about minimum two people. You always go with two people, right? So that too, when you are going specifically for alpine climbing, which we will not be talking about. So for the sake of making things easier, let's consider we have significant good amount of people to make a good team. The first rule is never climb or venture in the wilderness with the strangers. Why? Because first of all, if you sit amongst the mountaineers, you will hear a lot of stories where the entire expedition has gone wrong just because of people climbing with strange people. Now you need to be in touch with people. So only then you must proceed ahead towards the mountain. You must know each other. It's all about developing the bond and trusting each other. You must know how capable the other person is and is he capable of helping you or not. Similarly, same applies to the other person. So the first rule is never climb with the strangers. If you happen to meet two people, those are strangers, get to know each other. Now, whenever you're in a team, always assign a leader and deputy leader. This is really important because sometimes what happens is everybody comes with their own decisions, which is important, but all the decisions cannot be followed. Hence, you must appoint one leader. And in case something goes wrong, let's say a leader becomes sick or leader is absent due to any reason, there must be an additional person who will take charge and who will take place of the leader. Hence, always appoint a deputy leader. Like I said before, know your team. Know the people that you are climbing with, going with in the mountains or anywhere in the wilderness. Like teams, mountaineering training and experience. Get to know what is the experience of your team members, what is the training level of your team members. Are they trained in basic mountaineering course at least? Do they have any prior experience or not? Now, fitness level is very important. Like I said, mountaineering is all about mind, muscles, and money. So, fitness level is very important. No matter how mentally strong you are, but if you are not physically fit, your mental strength is of no use, at least in the mountaineering. Now, no matter how physically fit you are, if you are mentally weak, again, it's of no use. So, mental as well as physical fitness is equally important. Now, team's leadership qualities. Now, when I mention leadership qualities, even if you have one particular leader or deputy leader, you must understand that it is important that everybody is leader in itself. So that whenever a situation arises, emergency situation arises, instead of looking at each other's faces, everybody knows what exactly needs to be done. Nobody should be waiting to receive, instructions. Nobody should be asked to do. People must proactively know what is supposed to be done at particular hour. That will happen only when the team members have good amount of leadership qualities. Second, always include a paramedics or a doctor in your team. Whenever you're heading towards the mountains, you are getting prone to a lot of subjective as well as objective hazards. Like I said before, you're under the effect of high altitude. You can come across a lot of medical problems like high altitude pulmonary edema, cerebral edema, acute mountain sickness, a lot of such problems which we will not be covering right now over in detail, but to tell you that you will be coming across a lot of medical problems in the high altitude. Hence, always carry a paramedic or a doctor along with you. Now, always have one or two experienced members in your team. Even if you're going to a particular region for the first time, and even if most of you are not experienced about the mountaineering, always try to include one or two experienced people in your team. Those who have been to the Himalayas, those who know mountaineering, those who are trained in the mountaineering, and those who have much more experience than you have. That will always help you in giving you guidance and letting you know if there is something that needs to be amended. Okay, let's talk about the final preparations to be done before heading towards the mountains. Okay, like I said, research about the area of the visit. Now, when you do the research of the area of the visit, it includes a couple of things, starting from the map work, right? Most of the time I've seen people, at least I haven't seen people taking map reading into consideration. 90% people, they don't know anything about the maps, at least the way I have seen it. They just venture out in the mountains and they have no idea about their planning before and after, right? So always do a little bit of map work. Try to find out the location where you're heading towards on the map. Try to know its various aspects associated with that particular region, which we will be talking about down the line in this presentation. So do the map work, know the weather condition of that particular region as per the season. If you're going pre-monsoon, right, try to know the weather conditions. If you're going post-monsoon, try to know the weather conditions. Try to gather, in fact, you must gather basic amount of weather forecast. For that, you can consult your mobile applications. You can consult the Indian Meteorological Department in advance. You can give a letter to them and ask for the weather forecast. Okay, know about the vegetation and wildlife of that particular region. What kind of trees exist in that region and what is the wildlife status of that region. Most of the Himalayas are covered with trees like rhododendron, oak, and Himalayan cedar. There can be a couple of other varieties also. So you must know about those particular aspects also, especially wildlife. Over the internet, try to find out recent reports, right? Recent reports of that particular region. Now, many people write blogs. In fact, I do write a blog about my mountaineering expeditions where I give the details of those entire aspects associated with the mountaineering. So you can find these reports on the blogs. You can find that particular information with the organization like Indian Mountaineering Foundation, mountaineering institutes like Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, HMI, etc. So always try to find out information from the reports about that particular region. Before heading towards the wilderness, know which is the last and the nearest hospital, last police station, and last village. Because, and once you know these things, always try to get in touch with them, inform them about your plan, drop them your plan, write a letter to them mentioning your entire plan, so that in, in the time of any contingency happen, they are ready to come for any sort of rescue work. Let's say you're venturing for 10 days. Now it's 11th or 12th day and there is no sign of you. Now these people will already know that it's now more than 10 days. Now they need to do something about your rescue. So always inform these people. Try to know what are the permits required from the forest departments. You can know the same from the institutes like Indian Mountaineering Foundation, because there are a lot of places in the Himalayas where special permissions are required. Like if you go in the Gangotri region, there's a special permit required from the forest department. If you do not take those permissions and you reach over there, you might be turned back at the last moment. So get to know about these particular things in advance. And most important thing is when you're going in the mountains, you need to contact a logistic support agency. Even if you're a big team, still you must take support of a logistic agency, a tour operator, who can take part of your entire logistics. In the logistic, he will provide you porters, he will provide you the mules, he will arrange cook for you, he will arrange all the dining for you, accommodations for you, and he will also provide guides and high altitude porters for you in case required, depending upon the region of your venturing out. The preparations before final approach, we proceed ahead. You need to choose the team, right? Choose the right team, like I said before. And what are the aspects of the right team we'll talk about down the line. Pre-expedition training, that is physical as well as technical training. Before heading into the mountains, always revise your mountaineering training or whatever outdoor training you have. You never know when you might be in need of those training. In fact, most of the training is always in use. You will always be doing certain things like pitching of your tent, backpacking, choosing of the campsite, etc. So always revise your training. Official document as per the country and region. Like for example, if you're coming for other country to India, always get to know about the official documents and all the formalities and get them done in advance. Now, preparation before final approach, proceeding ahead, decide on budget. All right. When we talk about budget, take into consideration aspects like purchase of equipment, ration, hiring of porters, transportation. Purchase of equipment, depending on the region which you are going, you will need equipment accordingly. Some of the basic equipment that you would need are like tents, your baggages, your utensils. If you are climbing a difficult section for research work, you will need mountaineering technical equipment. Now, if you talk about rations, you cannot have exactly the same food which you're eating in the civilized location. So you will have to take into consideration special rations as per that particular region, as per your requirement, and as per your appetite and choice. Hiring of the porters, like I said, you need people, those who will carry your stuff till the base camp and accordingly, and back from base camp to the road head, depending upon how much luggage you are carrying, how much equipment you are carrying. Then is your transportation. So all these things can be arranged by logistics support agency. So like I said in the previous slide, always contact a logistics support agency. Leave your plan with your friend and family. It's very basic thing so that they know where you're going and when they should expect you back. Leave your plan with the nearest or the last police station village headman, because let's say before heading into the wild and leaving the road head, get in touch with the last or the first um, village and village headman. Get in touch with him or her, drop your plan, inform about your entire plan so that he knows exactly what you are about to do, so that if there's any rescue situation contingency, he can come for your help. Now, how to choose the right support team? Fine. Know the staff of the support team. Now, over here, I'm talking about logistic support team, tour operators, and stuff like that. Okay, let's say you are contacting a particular logistic support team, fine, agency. Most of the people I've seen, they do not do any research. They simply get in touch with them. And sometimes what happens, many times it has happened that the tour agency themselves have committed serious mistakes, and the entire expedition, entire program got failed, and in fact it led to many uh, serious problems even. So in order to avoid all those things, it is always better to take few things into consideration. Some of them are like, know the staff of the support team. You need to know what is the qualification of that particular team, who are the people that will be with you, what are their experiences, try to analyze their professionalism. I mean, know the trek leaders and guide. If there are trek leaders with you, some guides with you, try to know their experience, their qualifications, their plan, and all the things that you find are important. Know the plan and action of trek leader and guide. When you interact with them, always discuss what plan he has. What is the plan of the trek leader or the guide for you? Because you might have certain plan in your mind, he might have certain plan in his or her mind. So when both the plans are brought together, they are discussed, you both will be on the same page, and you will get a fair idea of the trek leader or the person with you. Now, know the preparations and backup plan. Always get in touch with your support team and know what are the preparations and what are the backup plans of that particular team for you, so that in terms of in a situation where there's a rescue situation, you already know what kind of backup exists from the support team's end, and you can decide accordingly. Proceeding ahead is your mountain manners. Mountain manners are very important because a lot of problems have occurred, especially when people lack mountain manners. Now, what are those mountain manners? We'll discuss. Respect the law and culture of the land. Wherever you go, I would always suggest that you respect the law of that land and above all, the culture of that particular region. Many times it happens that you're trekking, you're reaching, you're proceeding towards your next destination, and people are coming back from that particular destination. If you exchange greetings, the advantage is that you can exchange information. You can gather some information from them. They will let you know how the situation is in the base camp or the camps ahead. So always it is advisable that you exchange greetings. Many times people happen that they cross each other coldly, and I would suggest that if you find that other person has that welcoming gestures, it is always advisable that you exchange greetings with them. Now, when we talk about walking manners, the basic is that never overtake, because when people are trekking ahead with a load on their back, they already are mentally engaged. Many times I've seen people get irritated easily, and the trails are very narrow. So avoid overtaking. It might lead to some sort of accident, and people temperament is such that they get irritated. They take it as disrespect. So avoid overtaking. In case you need to overtake, always ask for a permission, or just keep walking accordingly. Now, judging is something, judging distance. Now, in the mountaineering, I've learned it always appears farther than it is, and it always is higher than it appears, right? So do not get irritated, because it's very likely that you'll get irritated by knowing that you are not reaching your destination soon. So when somebody tells that your particular base camp is still 4 hours away or 2 hours away, do not react violently to it. Do not get irritated. In fact, have a determined mind and proceed accordingly. Country courtesy, like I say, exchange greetings with people, try to adapt as per the situation. Do not say anything that might be offensive. Do not wear anything that might not be welcomed in that particular region. Do not talk or react in a manner that might not be acceptable to the particular region. So try to blend as per the situation and as per that particular region. This will only help you. So if you do opposite of it, the people might be against you of that particular region. Passing of the information is very important. So once you have done with your expedition, once you have returned back, it is always advisable that you give the latest information about that particular region from where you have come back to the village headman. For example, if there's a landslide that has happened, the rockfall that has happened, a cliff has broken, and there's a blockage of road, always inform the village headman so that he knows what is the situation ahead and he can take appropriate actions. Throwing of the stones, avoid throwing small stones and pebbles in the air, because there can be people down the hill with their shepherds, with their cattle and all. It can hit somebody's head and it can lead to a lot of casualty. Noisy behavior, I've seen a lot of people creating a lot of noise in the mountains. They are really excited when once they are in the hills, and they love to sing, they love to shout, but this is considered as very disrespectful behavior. This disturbs the wildlife over there. It disturbs the people, those who are camping over that particular region. And this is a particular behavior I've seen very common and must be avoided. Now, hut manners. For example, if you are in a particular region where there are huts available for you to stay, be mindful that there are other people also. If you have to leave early morning, which you will be doing most of the time, because it's always advisable that in the mountains you leave early. Do not create noise. Do not spread your equipments all around so that they get mixed up with others' equipment and create a problem later on. Rescue work. Now in the mountains, providing rescue is a kind of tradition. So be courteous to the same, and always stay ready that you might be in a situation where you need to rescue your team members even. So everybody should be prepared accordingly to help each other, right? That will come only with training, mental as well as physical fitness. Okay, now comes the campsite manners. This is very important. The first is your garbage management, right? So garbage management is very important. Why? Because needless to say, there is already so much of garbage all around. The only places where there are no garbage is where there are no humans. So mountain is one such place that must be protected. And in fact, people have started spreading so much of garbage in the mountains that now organization like Indian Mountaineering Foundation, they are launching special cleaning expedition just to go to the mountains and get back the garbage spread by other people. So garbage management is very important. So whenever you reach your base camp, dig a pit, collect the garbage in one particular place. But more advisable is that you have a particular sack. Everybody should dump their garbage in that particular sack so that that sack can be brought down to the civilized location and recycled and handed over to the authorities accordingly. It is very important to keep vigil on the porters for garbage management, because most of the time I've seen the porters or people, those who are assisting you, they will be reckless towards garbage. I have seen them throwing garbage indiscriminately uh, elsewhere. So always instruct them that the garbage that your team has already collected must not be thrown here and there. In fact, if the porters are taking the garbage towards the roadhead back, they should be given strict instructions that it should be deposited to the right person. Fine. Immediately when you reach to the camp, allot the toilet areas immediately so that the people do not go here and there and pollute the environment. Toilets area are very important. The way we do it, immediately when we reach, we allot the toilet areas to the males and females accordingly. It should be away from the tent, your campsite, and it should be at significant respectable distance from the water resource. Now, once you have allotted the toilet areas, the management of toilet area is very important. So always dig a pit where you do the toilet, and you attend the nature's call, and you cover with that sand. So that is all about garbage management. So once you leave that particular campsite, the entire region must be clean. It must not be polluted. Mindful use of water, like I said, always maintain a respectful distance from the water for your personal use, or use of water for drinking, your personal hygiene. In fact, I have a YouTube channel by the Mountain Knights name. These particular things are mentioned in that particular YouTube channel too. You can take a look at those videos and get to know more about them. Leave no trace before, during, and after your entire expedition. Leave no trace simply means the area must be kept as far as possible exactly the way it was before your presence. There should be no trace remaining in that particular region. No single wrapper of toffee or whatsoever must be present over there. Team management is very important. Like I said, mountaineering is all about team, and not just mountaineering. If even if you're heading towards the mountains for research work, you will be in team. The management of team is very important. Like I said, always appoint a leader who will to whom entire team will be addressing. Fine, and he will be addressing, taking opinions of entire team. Always have a deputy leader. His role is second to the leader. Know the team and break the ice. Always know your team, know each other's strong points, weak points, their expertise, and break the ice. Get to know each other. Brief the plans, brief the plan of the day in the morning, every day. So before you start your day, always brief the day's plan. And once you are done in the evening, do the same. Debriefing of the plan for a day and briefing of the plan for tomorrow is very important by the evening before you sleep. Like I said, always take the team opinion. If there is some changes required, that can be taken into consideration, and leaders will address the same. Distribute tasks and responsibility to everybody as per their expertise, their strong points and weak points. Everybody must be engaged, because in the mountains, time needs to be saved. There is no time to waste. You get up early in the morning, you leave for your work, and you return by lunch, and you prepare for tomorrow. The only time which I experienced is 2 to 3 hours in the evening, that is before sleeping. Start early in the morning and sleep early. In the mountains, high mountains, it is not advisable that you eat your lunch at 8 or 9 or 10. The moment it is time to sunset, start preparing for your dinner already and have it as soon as the sun sets, and sleep early. And next day, start your day early in the morning. Okay, now let's come to the map reading part. Like, needless to say, map is the true representation of the portion of earth on a piece of paper to a particular scale. Map reading is very important. Most of the people I've seen heading towards the mountains without any knowledge of map reading. So map work is really important. So over here I will not be able to share with you a lot about mountains, but I will be a lot about map reading. But some of the basic things that you need to know, I will be talking about the same over here. Like I said, why are map used? Map are very important for planning of the expedition, selection of the campsites, selection of the routes, obtaining heights of the particular region. From the map, you can identify the heights, you can obtain the heights, you can calculate the slopes, and identify your own location on the maps, identify other features for your personal comparisons. So map reading is really important. There are various types of maps available. Needless to say, there are atlas maps, political maps, geographical map, climate map, relief maps. But of our use in the outdoors, the best suitable map is topographic map. Right? The topographic map is a map which has contour lines. It has all the features shown on the map. Now, some of the parts of the map, very common features of the map are sheet number, longitude, latitude, legend, and a scale. So this is the image of a map which is available in India, and you can obtain it from Survey of India. Now there are two kind of maps for your information. One is the open series map, and the other one is the closed series, restricted series map. Any region which has the presence of military comes under a restricted series map. As far as my knowledge goes, you will not be able to obtain those maps. In fact, you will be able to obtain map of only that region which is demilitarized. Fine. So this is the image of the map which is available for civilians, and it is from Survey of India. Every map will have a sheet number. Now, sheet number is identification of that particular number map. Now, second most important feature is the legend. Legend is a section of the map which has information about various features, roads, villages, temples, um, railways, etc. Second, the third is your declination information. The magnetic declination is very important, which we will talk about in brief down the line. You will find the declination information over here. And the last in this particular section is the scale of the map. The rest is the body of the map, which has longitudes and latitudes. Now, what is the scale? The scale of a map is the ratio of a distance of the map to the corresponding distance on the ground. So there are three kind of maps, scales that are available on any map: descriptive scale, linear scale, and representative fraction scale. So this is the image that shows three kind of maps available, three kind of scales available on the map. If you take a look at it, the descriptive scale is 500 meters equal to 1 centimeter, which means to say that 1 centimeter of distance on a map will be equal to 500 meters of distance on the ground. If you consult the refractive fraction scale, it says 1:50,000, right? And most of the maps in India are 1:50,000, which means 1 unit on the map is equivalent to 50,000 of the same unit on the ground. Then comes the linear scale. Linear scale is the same, which you can see over here. Below the linear scale, there is something written as contour interval 40 meters. Now, this is something that you will be able to understand more practically. But contour interval simply means distance between one contour line and other contour line. And how much is the distance on ground is mentioned over here, that is 40 meters. Now, identifying geographical features. Like I said, contour is an imaginary line drawn on the map which joins points of equal elevation above or below. Baseline normally means sea level. So contour lines are circular lines, right? Every contour line will be joining the same at some point or the other. Now you need to identify contour lines. You need to have the ability to read the contour lines so that you are able to identify some of the basic features of a map surrounding you. Some of them are hill. If you want to identify the hill, like you can see in the image, the contour lines will be something like this. There will be
No,
circles
I'm
and the
putting it off.
center.
Keeping it. No, you go. No, I can't.
Okay. So this is the representation of the hill. The second feature that you will come across very commonly is ridge. You must know about the ridge. Whenever you need to identify the ridge over the map, the ridge the contour lines will represent a ridge something like this. Now a gully and valley are two things that you need to identify. You generally get confused. A gully is something that is formed due to flash floods or situations like that. In order to identify a gully, which is also known as draw, you will have to take into consideration this particular section of contour lines. It will be kind of A made. So when you see it in the real life, this is how a gully looks like. And on the map, with the help of contour lines, this is how gully looks like. So with some more practice, you will be able to do this on your own. Next is the saddle. Now, saddle is this kind of structure. It looks like a horse saddle. So if you need to identify this particular thing on the map, this is how the contour lines looks like. And then comes the valley. Okay, as you will be able to read contour lines only when you have access to topographic map, and this comes with the ability to develop three-dimensional images in your mind. So over here, it's definitely looking more like theoretical, but that's all we can do right now. But this definitely requires a lot of practical work. Okay, next is the direction. Now, needless to say, what is the direction? But mountaineers generally, take into consideration bearings to measure the direction. Now, bearings are expressed in degrees and range from 0 to 360. They're always read in clockwise direction. To measure bearing, we use protectors. Now, bearing can be taken out only when you have compasses. Now, next is a true north. You need to know what is true north, what is grid north, and what is magnetic north. Now, true north is the direction to the North Pole, right? It is the north according to the Earth's axis and not anything else, not magnetic north, not the north on the map even. Next, you need to know is what is a grid north. Grid north is north exactly depicted on the map, right? That is called as your grid north. And the third one is you need to understand is your magnetic north. Magnetic north is the direction of your magnetic needle. Wherever the magnetic needle points, that is your north direction. Generally, the north pointing portion of the magnetic needle is marked in red color. Devices that are used with map are definitely compass, service protector, and GPS. We will not be talking about GPS right now because itself is a very vast topic. So we will focus only on compass right now. The compass is a device used to find the directions and measure the bearings. There are two kinds of compasses, the dry compass and liquid prismatic compass. The compass which has liquid prismatic generally has a liquid film inside it, which is generally alcoholic substance. Service protector is this particular equipment which is generally used with respect to the map reading, and it is used to plot bearing on the map. Now, what is bearing actually? The bearing is, the degree of direction with reference to one particular imaginary line. So we'll talk about the bearing down the line. So over here you can see the straight line is reading the bearing as 258. So there are two things that you need to take into consideration. That is forward bearing and back bearing. The forward bearing is the bearing of the position of an object from observer's point, and the back bearing is bearing of the position of an observer from the observed point. Fine. So how to take out the bearing? Okay. So for example, let's take this is a base plate compass. Now, for example, if you're standing at position A and looking towards object B, all you need to do is hold your base plate compass in such a manner that this particular arrow is pointing towards your destination, that is B, and then you calculate your bearing. So there is a particular way of finding out bearing. We'll be able to do more of that only practically. Fine. Otherwise, it will become too theoretically. So this is your back bearing. Anything opposite to forward bearing, exactly opposite to forward bearing, will be your back bearing. Magnetic declination. Magnetic declination is angular difference between the true north and magnetic north. The information of magnetic declination will always be mentioned in your map. So whenever you find out bearing, based upon the information present on the map, you need to either add or subtract the bearing to adjust the magnetic declination. So there are two kind of declination. One is east declination and other one is west declination. In the east declination, you need to add the declination mentioned on the map. For example, if your declination is let's say 20, fine. So you need to add it accordingly. If you have the west declination, you will have to subtract the declination that is mentioned on the map. Now, you will not be able to understand exactly right now because there is a lot of practical work involved in this. So with the practice only, you will be able to understand more about west declination, east declination, how to adjust it, and how to calculate the exact bearing. Okay, now this is something, the most important part of map reading. Basic steps of any map reading. First of all, you need to orient the map. Map orientation simply means when that the north as well as the north of the map should be in synchronization. So whenever you have to do map reading, if you're wondering which direction should you place the map, just place the map on the ground in such a way that north is upward and south is downward. Over that, you place your map's compass, and in whatever direction the magnetic needle north faces, your north of the map should face in the same direction. Once the north of your compass as well as the north of the map are in the same direction, the orientation of the map is successful. Second step is finding your own location. Now, roughly own location means finding out where exactly on the map you are. Now, let's say you are in a location uh, which you have identified on the map, but you do not know what is the exact and precise location of your position on the map. You'll have to do a couple of calculations that will be done with the help of finding your own location precisely. For that, first of all, you need to find out the forward bearing of object A and then add or subtract the magnetic declination. Once that is done, you need to calculate the back bearing from the object that you're observing. Once that is done with the help of service protector, you need to mark that back bearing from the object A using the protector. Now you need to understand that to find out your own location, you need to identify two geographical feature minimum around you, and the same two geographical features should be present on the map itself, right? Once that is done, only then you will be able to proceed ahead with finding your own location. Once the back bearing from object observed is calculated and marked on the map, you need to do the same for the object B. Find the forward bearing for object A and mark the back bearing from object B. Fine. Mark the back bearing, like I said before, using service protector. Now, wherever these two lines intersect, that particular point of intersection is your precise own location, right? So once the own location is calculated, next you need to do is find out the coordinates. Again, it's a calculation that needs to be done. It cannot be explained right now over here. You need to do it practically. So in future, if you want to know more about map readings, you will have to be present practically with a person who knows map reading so that he can explain you and he can help you in practicing the same. Okay, now let's talk about the last section of this talk, 10 survival essentials. Now, once you're in the mountaineering, if you have these 10 survival essentials ready, a lot of tasks will be easier. First of all, you need to be good in map reading and navigation. You need to have equipment accordingly, a map and a compass at least. Sun protection is very important. Once you're at high altitude, you are subjecting yourself to extreme level of ultraviolet radiations. Like I said before, the environment is thin, the atmosphere is thin. There are a lot of refractors available. So you are more vulnerable to the harmful effect of ultraviolet radiation. So always prefer to use sun protection SPF 40 of sunscreen lotion. Whenever possible, whenever you are exposed to the sun, wear a wide brim hat and do not expose yourself unnecessarily to the sunscreen, else you will get prone to sunburns of very high degree. As you can see in the picture, this is just 30 minutes of exposure to the ice wall, where the reflection of the sun rays was very intense, and hence it led to sunburns. Too much of sunburns, frequent sunburns, can lead to skin cancer. Next is insulation. Always have your clothes accordingly. Always carry breathable clothes, warm clothes. Do not soak yourself too much in the clothes and do not expose too much of your body towards the cold environment. So always take care of your insulation. Carry a hat, a jacket, your warm footwears accordingly. Then is your illumination system. Always carry something to have light. Like you must have a head torch, you must have a spare torch, something that helps you to see things in the dark. First aid supplies is very important, but before that you need to be well aware of basic first aid kits, how to give basic first aid, for example, how to give CPR, and what are the various other aspects associated with becoming a first aid responders. In fact, there are courses which I personally recommend that you must do. Always have a fire system ready. You never know when you will enter into a situation that might require fire. Although we carry fuel in the high altitude, for example kerosene, but if you come across a situation where you get stuck somewhere, you must have fire system ready. Then is the most important thing which I personally always carry is the repair and toolkit. Always carry repair kit. If you're using mountaineering equipment, always carry their repair kit. If you're carrying a tent, always carry its repair kit. Whatever you're using, always carry its repair kit. You never know when your equipment might get bad and you'll have to repair it. So that is very important part. Next is your nutrition. Guys, you need to understand that high altitude is a place where your nutrition and your energy will be exhausted. So before heading towards mountains, always maintain a discipline of having very good nutrition. You need to be prepared all the time. You need to have the discipline of doing workout, doing physical activities, so that when the time comes to head towards the mountains, that's not a time for you to start building your physical fitness and mental fitness. So make this a habit. In fact, once you're in the mountains, maintain your nutrition accordingly. Even if you don't feel like eating, which is most likely to happen, you must eat food no matter what. You must keep yourself hydrated. You must eat good food. Like I said, hydration is very important. If you're dehydrated, your physical performance will be reduced by 50%. Right? So hydration is very important. So always continue drinking water as much as possible. Drinking water will, save you from a lot of acute mountain sicknesses. So drinking water is something you must not forget at all and must not be taken lightly. Then is your emergency shelters. Even if you have good shelters, you must know how to build emergency shelters. You must know how to make bivouac. You must know how to make igloos. You must know how to use the rock shelters. You must, if you're in the jungles, you must know how to use the fallen woods to make shelter for yourself. It is very important for you to stay insulated, so that you don't get prone to hypothermia, which is very likely to happen if you take things non-seriously. So shelter is very important. That's all from my side, guys, which I wanted to share with you in this brief period of time. Mountaineering is something which you learn with time. This is not something that you can learn over one hour talk. Map reading is not something that I can teach you right now just by this presentation. But I tried my best to give you theoretical knowledge briefly. And if there is something you want to know and down the line, you can always get in touch with us. We will conduct workshops for you. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Shahid, this was so exciting and so knowledgeable. So at this point, if you could stop sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, I feel that this is so important, for anyone who goes to the Himalayas for work, for leisure, for anything. The things that you have shared with us today, I think they're just so crucial. Even if we don't climb a mountain, just being there and knowing the vast knowledge that, so many people before us have gone into to understand these mountains. And there are maps out there, and each one of us should actually engage with those maps and understand them better. It really helps us. And nowadays technology has gone so ahead, with your phones, things like that we've got altimeters and all of that. So maybe down the line, I would love you to come back on and maybe have a session on Androids and iPhones and the kind of apps they have to orient ourselves. And at this point, we those of you who have questions, please start raising your hands and I'll take them in the order received. And I do want to say that Shahid and I are very good friends, and he was with us in January and February. And like I said, his company Mountain Nights is very professional, and we are working together to, make an experience where Shahid will be talking about all this, the details, the theoretical, the practical aspects of climbing, of survival, of orientation, all of that, while at the Himalayan Institute, there are so many sites waiting to be discovered. There's so many mountain peaks where there are archaeological sites that haven't been documented. So I think, and when we scale those mountains, for me, I feel it will be half the work done if I do not go prepared and I go without a person like Shahid. So those of you in the coming months, we will be curating specific archaeological expeditions and anthropological expeditions with Shahid, where you can learn about geology. Like we'll be teaching about geology, Dr. Parth Chauhan and others, or who specialize in prehistoric archaeology. We will be doing all that with Shahid, so that we can give you a very comprehensive and a very detailed approach to doing things. And I'm so excited to go on such an expedition with you, Shahid.
Well, it will always be a pleasure. But like I said before, there is so much to be explored, and this knowledge is something that comes over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about reading or listening. It's more about being there and learning with your own experience. How every line unfolds, that will be, that can be experienced only once you are out there. So I tried my best to cover up the basics of being in the wilderness and mountains in this webinar. But there's a lot to be discovered, there's a lot to be learned, which will come only gradually with time.
And I do want to share, and we're getting some hands raised, but before I take the first question, in Egypt, I remember, and Angela is here right now, who has worked for a decade in Egypt as well. So, when we go to the desert, and the Sahara, it's the largest desert, and if you're lost in the Sahara, you're done. One of the army of Xerxes was basically lost in the desert because perhaps they didn't have a map back then. So there are some archaeologists who are waiting for that lost army, because if they find that, history will be revealed, and so many people may have been lost like that. So the nomads there, they had their own, they didn't have any compasses. So I saw the Bedouins of the Sahara, picking up sand and doing this to see the direction of the wind. Okay. And they the locals connect with the landscape because they live there, they know the landscape, they know their orientation without a map. So I really like the fact, that interaction and that respect for the locals is important, because if you're lost and you encounter a local, I think half the battle is won, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's take the first question. Manoj, can you please unmute yourself, and perhaps we can see your face as well?
Yeah, sure. Sonali and Shahid, thank you very much for the session. So my question is, Shahid, could you please suggest a few trekking groups or travel companies who can take us to Himalayan exploration? And certain, like all these accessories, okay, instead of buying, can we rent actually for a certain period, like a compass or a light torch, etc., or a trekking kind of things? Yeah, thank you. And thank you for a great session. Yeah.
Thank you for being there. All right, so in the market, if you see, even if you search in the web, there are lots and lots of trekking companies, but the question rises which one to go with. According to me, there are only few people, those who are working extremely professionally. They know what they are exactly doing. Majority of the trekking companies or travel agencies are just conducting it very commercially. So they take bulky groups and they just take them, people follow them in line, and they come back. So but right now, keeping your question and my answer short and simple, is I suggest you go with organization. One of my friend, he was Air Force navigator, and then he's a 40 years of experience holder in mountaineering. So his company's name is Random Adventures. I'm just typing the name over here. So Random Adventures, you go with them, and they will provide you with all the equipment that is required. In case you have special requirements about your expedition or you're venturing out, talk to them and they will handle it accordingly. I mean, this is the company that I would suggest you. Rest 99% of the companies out there are just doing things very commercially. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can find this particular name even in the Instagram.
Okay. So I'll do that. So, and you are having so Sonali just mentioned that you are having a group. So is it based in Delhi or?
Yeah, his group is Mountain Knights. I don't think he heard the question.
Okay.
His group is Mountain Knights. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for for just hiking, trekking, I think you should go with Shahid. And if you're looking for a cultural, archaeological, anthropological, and climbing experience, then of course we both are working together on that. And of course, you've got the internet to explore others. Yeah.
Thank you for these two are in my priority list now. So Random Adventures and then Mountain Knights. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So we have a couple of questions on the chat. So I guess I'll ask Otis, Dr. Otis Crandall. He had the question. And then after that, I'll take Mahima's question.
Hi, it was a good presentation. I was interested, how common is it to find drinkable or potable water sources, or whether you have to filter it or not? Or do you normally have to bring in water?
Yeah, okay. So you want to know about water and how can we filter it. So first of all, in the Himalayas, majority of the places you'll come across natural underground water seeping out from the rocks, which is needless to filter. It's absolutely clear. Now you come across certain places where the water has some sort of sand in it, silt in it. So that is the time when the filtration of water is required. So you can get along, you can bring with you basic filtering equipment in that particular scenario. But majority of the time, you will find fresh, clean water. Clean flowing streams of water. If there are no streams, there are a lot of places where the water is seeping from the underground water resources. But still, I recommend that you bring your water purifier just for the sake of filtering the silt in the sand, in the water.
Do you recommend like a chemical filter, like an iodine, putting iodine drops in the water, or
Yes,
like a
yes,
filter where it goes from one chamber to the other?
exactly. Most of the time, both of them will not be required. I mean, 9 out of 10 times these filters will not be required, but you
Mm.
will definitely come across one time a situation where the water will have silt in it, right? In high altitudes there will be silt in it sometimes, so you need a filter to filter out the silt. In fact, I never use iodine tablets, I never came across situation, but still it is recommended that you carry one.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? And by the way, I don't know if Rajiv is here. Rajiv, can you come online? Because I really want you to share. There's this story, Shahid, that Rajiv talks about when he was in his younger days. And whenever we sit around, and this is another thing. Whenever you're out in the mountains, you sit around a bonfire and you
Yeah.
tell stories of your experiences. And that's the fun part of that togetherness. That teamwork, you really kind of get to know each other through those experiences as well. So if Rajiv could come and share that experience where he actually saw somebody dead in the Himalayas. Rajiv, are you on? Like, what to do in such a situation? I'm sure call the police, but there's no police, around.
Yeah.
Are you there? And by the time he comes, maybe we can take the next question. Um, Anupam Sa is here. Hi, Anupam. Good to see you. He has a question. Could you unmute your mic? Okay. Anupam, could you unmute your mic? Anyway, I'll just take his question. He's asked, how do you prefer to filter the silt?
Yeah. Okay. The basic thing that we have been, utilizing is the sponge. A lot of this sponge material available in the market. We simply put it over the utensil, and we pour the water, and the water is filtered out of the, from that silt. This is the basic thing that you can do. I'm sure in the market there are a lot of high quality and high standard silt purifiers, but if you do not find one, or if you have one and you misplace it, or get rid of it due to any reason, what we have been doing is we have been purifying water and silt with the help of the sponge. If even that goes out, we have been using a clean cloth.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to, point out, because of course at the Institute, we do a lot of documentation, and we have to learn about so many other things. For example, if we are looking at an archaeological structure, For example, a temple, where is the stone coming from, which direction it is coming from, all these things become very relevant. Suppose, we talk about myths and they talk about a flood of a river. You see the landscape and you see, like, what are the traces? Was there a flood in the past? How do you spot features like that, right? How do you understand the changing landscape? Rivers change their course. 2 years ago, the Bias River was flooded like anything. People were asked to vacate the low-lying areas, and I saw the whole course of the river change, and that change can have such an impact on people who live there, on structures that were there before, and structures that are made later, right? So for all of this kind of information is so important. And with GIS, geographical information systems,
Yeah.
which we use in archaeology a lot, about how to orient sites, and how to understand a particular site, its relationships to things, our questions, um, and all of it is so linked to what you talked about today. And
Yeah.
it's so imperative to learn all of that in conjunction with what you do, right? So okay, uh, a lot of questions about trekking and all, and like I said, if you want to connect with the person who really knows what he is doing, and not going to some just mountaineering shop, I'm sorry to say, but in India we have this tendency of just opening shop without a professional degree, and so many mishaps take place because of that. So you need to go to people who are trained, who are
Yeah.
certified, who know what they're talking about, because this is about life on the
Yeah.
edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also recommend a lot of documentaries that are up there on YouTube
Yes.
on mountaineering.
Yeah.
They're so awe-inspiring. And Shahid, I want you to talk about an experience that really left you dumbfounded, in the sense that all that knowledge that you had gained really helped you out of a situation. Can you tell
Yeah.
us about one such incident which made you feel that, oh my God, if it was not for my knowledge, I would not have made it?
Yeah. I just remember, like, in 2016, I was on an expedition to Mount Kun, which is in Kargil region of Ladakh. So I was with American climbers. These were alpine climbers from United States of America, and they're very famous climbers. They have been featured many times on Climbing Magazine, Alpine Journal of America. I don't remember exactly its name, but very renowned climbers. So they were on their climb on expedition on another peak, and due to some logistic reasons, lack of some logistic fulfillments, I had to stay. So I went on another peak to utilize my time, because that was the time I was really eager to climb. So once I reached the summit of that particular peak, just maybe 10 or 20 meters before reaching the summit, I slided down. And on the northern side of that peak, there was approximately 1000 meters vertical drop. So had I not utilized my mountaineering training, there was high chances maybe I would have gone, and nobody would have ever got to know where I have flown, and nobody would have been able to come for my rescue, at least in country like India, right? So the moment I slided down, I utilized my mountaineering training, that is self-arrest techniques, where you arrest yourself from falling down. And again, it's something that comes with the practice. That was a time where I actually thanked my training and my presence of mind, that it actually saved me from sliding back more. So that was one particular time which I realized how important your basic training is. Your advanced training is not that important, how much your basic training is. So everybody who has this idea of going to the mountains must have basic mountaineering training at least.
Thanks, Shahid, for sharing that. Mm,
Yeah.
and also, like, I would like you to comment on, you talked about we have to respect the culture, right? It's
Yeah.
very important. So many things that I was oblivious of when I started living in the mountains. I realized that there's so many nuances of Himalayan life. that people who are out do not understand. And if they don't
Yeah.
understand and they kind of trespass or do things which are not likened by the locals, it can be very, very embarrassing, number one.
Yeah.
And it can anger people, it can anger the locals. So can you tell us about the Van Devtas, those small shrines that you find
Yeah.
on mountain tops, and people actually
Yeah.
go there, locals go there. And if you could
Yeah.
tell us about how to appreciate those and any stories linked to that. I know that Suramya had a question relating to that. So if you could comment on things like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think, yeah. So most of the mountains, most of the expeditions that have gone always had, a local deity associated, be it in the Ladakh region, be it in the Uttarakhand region, or be it in the Northeast region. If I talk about Northeast region, in the Sikkim, when I was climbing, when I was training my trainees in the advanced mountaineering course, when I was with the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute, so over there they have this peak by the name of Mount Kabru. Right, it's a black peak which resembles the head of Lord Buddha. So now that peak has been banned from being climbed because of religious sentiment. You cannot climb that peak. So every year, the royal family people, those who still exist in Sikkim, they conduct the worship ceremony of that particular peak. If we come to the Uttarakhand, like I said, it's a place of Char Dham Yatra, a very religious place for the people from the Hindu religion. A lot of deities involved. If I talk about Himachal Pradesh, the same is in the Himachal. Now, I remember there was this peak that we climbed, being a part of mountaineering instructors team in 2018. That is Mount Lady of Kelong in Kelong, right? So the last village of that particular region on the route towards that particular peak is village Tinu. Now, the tradition is that you cannot go without seeking the blessings of the local deity, that is the Ghepan, if you're aware of the name, because you lived over there, right? And it was not only just a matter of seeking blessings, even if you don't believe, right, in these things, I would always suggest that you always adhere to the instructions, because if you do not do that, the locals might get offended. And we, being already people of well aware with the culture of this particular region, we had no second thoughts. We went there and we conducted the ceremony. We burned the local material that is used, right? And we conducted a ceremony and we seek the blessing, and the ceremony was fulfilled. So there is, I think, there are so many peaks where we did the same, right? Irrespective of our religious inclinations and belief systems.
So,
Yeah,
can you share something that where a team member has transgressed or not adhered to the instructions, and what has followed after, like with the locals, like and how have you, as a mountaineer and as a team leader, um, handled the situation?
yeah. So I was in this Mount Noon expedition in 2015, which is in Kargil, and I was with a team of climbers from Poland. They were very experienced people. There were three people. One of them was, had military background. Other was a professor in the stream that I don't remember, and one of their friend was from Italy. So it was a mixture of climbers from Poland and Italy. So everything went well. But what happened by the end of the expedition was that the porters, those who we have contacted, they were supposed to come at a particular day, but they came one day prior to our base camp, and they came in big number. We were expecting 5 to 10 maximum, but they came around 20 porters. And the base camp is a place where we do not have civilized location kind of facilities, where we can offer them food, we can offer them accommodation. It's a very strict regulated place. Everything is calculated, and if we have little bit of spare, that is just for our survival. Fine. So I remember that was very initial times of my mountaineering journey. So now I had to take a call. Now, for me, the biggest barrier was the language of Ladakh, and me not speaking Ladakhi language. But anyways, somehow I convinced them. I got in touch with the elderly person of that porters group. I listened to him. Now I explained the situation because they came early to get our luggage down, but they were supposed to come the next day. So now the question arises: where do they stay in the night? The temperature goes below 0 degree. Now where do they stay over there? And what do they eat? They have nothing to eat, right? So now both the situations had to be managed. So I had a word with the elderly person. I gave them the spare biscuits that we had, cookies and all, and we offered them some material so that they can make at least tea for themselves and at least rice, because that's all was remaining, because the entire 1 month expedition was finishing, and within a day or two it was time for us to move down to the civilized location. And they had come before the plan, the porters. The group of 20 people had to be managed by me alone, and we had nothing to take care of them. In fact, we were not supposed to do that even, but now they had already arrived, as they were the localites of that particular region. On a humanitarian's ground, even we had to take care of them. We cannot say that you go back, we don't care, come back tomorrow, we are giving you money, stuff like that. We couldn't do that because it doesn't look good. And even if we don't care about looking good or not, we still need those people, because we have to cross from their village. They could create problems for us. Fine. So I had a word with the elderly person. I had a word with the leader of that particular porter group. I explained the entire situation. I explained them that they were supposed to come the next morning, but as they have already come now, they will have to stay over there. They cannot go back now, because now they cannot cross the glacier and go back to the village in the dark, right? Now, these people don't have good mountaineering equipment. They walk in their normal stuff, right? So retreating for them was not an option. They had to stay in the base camp. So I explained them the entire situation, and they got convinced somehow. And then I offered them whatever I could offer them in terms of food. I could offer them tea, and I could offer them some biscuits, and maximum I could offer them rice. So they also got convinced. They understood the situation, and they cooked that food for themselves. They spent one night, and the next day we all were ready. We were all in good moods, and in fact I promised them to give little extra money if they cooperate with me for a day or for the one particular night. And next day the group of 20 people were satisfied. They were given the loads that they wanted for themselves equally, and everything was fine. So that was one particular moment where I really had to be very mindful of dealing with people, uh, especially when I don't know their language, right?
Yeah, and
So
that's
that's
so
it.
important. Imagine if you wouldn't have dealt with it properly, you could have antagonized them and anything could have happened. Hell would
Yeah.
have broken loose. So, thanks for that insight. So, Rajiv is back. Rajiv, could you come? Could we see your face too? So, Rajiv has written a little bit about the story, but the fun of being on a webinar is you talk about it. Can you come online? So, if you could share. And just for those who do not know, the Himalayan Institute is on the property of the Lord Rajiv Upadhyay. So he's into hospitality. And of course, with our expeditions, with Rajiv and Shahid and I together, we hope to, curate expeditions which are really a mix of everything and everything which is professionally done. So Rajiv is again absconding. Okay. So yeah, his story really intrigues me because he was in Ladakh and he saw somebody murdered, and he didn't know what to do. He the best thing he could have done was to leave the place, and he was very scared and he ran. And have you, Shahid, encountered anything like that?
Well, I haven't encountered something like murder, but I remember once I had to, help my cook in the base camp while being in the Mount Kun expedition. So I was almost like entire 1 day journey away from the nearest hospital.
Hmm.
So I remember he had stomach acidity. And I know how acidity can go bad at high altitude. Now, if the cook, which is only one over there, if he falls sick, the rest of us are almost in big trouble, right? Although we are capable of cooking everything ourselves, but during those periods, if I was capable of helping that particular cook, I didn't find any reason not to help him, right? Now the question arises, what I was required to do for helping him? Now I had to go, load my rucksack, walk all the way across the valley, cross the glacier, reach the Safad Nala location, police station, where I will have to wait for, you know, a vehicle passing by. There are no fixed buses over there, right? So what I did, I decided to go to the nearest hospital. And next morning, I loaded my rucksack, I packed my sleeping bag and basic necessary things which I might require in the way. And I also prepared for the emergency situation in case I don't make back to the base camp timely. If I have to camp in middle, so I was prepared accordingly. And I had to camp somewhere with natural shelter, not with some high class tent. I might come across a situation where I'll have to take a shelter under a rock, maybe make something stuff like that. So early morning I left. I crossed the entire glacier. Now walking on the glacier alone is something not at all advisable. We never know what kind of mishappening will happen. In case you enter into particular crevasse, 99% chances you will not be able to come out, right? And you are gone. But then I had to take that call, and I, made everything very calculative way. I had to take care of time. I had to take care of my energy, my food, and my entire task of going to the hospital and getting medicine for our cook. So by noon, I reached the Safad Nala location, that is Roadhead Police Station. Luckily, what happened, the local MLA of that particular region was on a tour for his some stuff, because elections were proceeding near, and he was on the round. So he was in his common vehicle in the hills, that is Bolero, Mahindra Bolero. And I requested him, sir, so and so we are on the expedition in that particular base camp, and our cook is sick, and I am here just to get medicine for him. So he said, no problem, you get in our car. So I got into the car of that MLA. So I took lift from him. The good part and funny part was, in whichever village he went, I was treated as a VIP because he was being treated nicely. He was being offered food and everything over there, and I was in his team now. Right? I still have those photographs, and I really enjoyed that part. And the good thing was that he was going to the nearest town where there was the first hospital. So my entire trouble was solved. By evening, we reached that particular hospital. I immediately went to the emergency ward of the hospital, and I took that acidity tablets from them and some other first aid medicine from them in case we come across a requirement. So I booked my hotel, booked my room in particular Jammu and Kashmir Tourism Lodge, and which was out of electricity, out of water, and everything. But at least I had a bed, right? So, anyways, that night got spent. My mission was successful. I now had the medicine for which I had come all the way walking, and somehow I got the lift from that MLA. Next morning, I was waiting for some lift towards back to that location. So I come across a truck, a petrol tank truck, right? So I had a word with the driver, and I told so and so I need to reach that Safad Nala police station. From there, I'll trek back to the base camp. So he agreed, and I got a lift in that truck. So by 3, I reached that particular police station location. Now I had to take a call. If I trekked, I might fall short of time, and I might have to come across a situation where I'll have to camp somewhere in the night. So the police station, the people, suggested me that I stay with them for a night, and the following morning I leave for the base camp. But then at calculated time, there were still 4 hours left for the sun to go down, and it takes about 6 hours to reach 5 to 6 hours to reach that particular base camp. So in order for me to cover that entire distance in 4 hours time, I had to increase my speed without taking a break. So finally, I decided my energy level left in that particular time because we were already exhausted by 1 month long expedition. And then I decided to leave towards the base camp. So luckily, I would say with my efforts, I would say I crossed that. My main task was to cross the glacier. Once the glacier was crossed, I would consider myself in safe zone now, because after glacier starts the normal trail till the base camp. So I crossed the glacier. The moment I crossed the glacier, the sun went down. Then it was dark. Now, even if it was dark, I was still relieved that now the most difficult portion, that is glacier, is crossed. I had my headlamp, I had my basic equipment, I had some biscuits with me. So I had them. I switched on my headlamp and I started trekking towards my base camp. By 8 in the night, I reached my base camp. Now, these people had already considered me dead, the base camp people. The two climbers from United States and one cook and his helper. And they were very sad to know that I have gone voluntarily to get medicine for them. And they were sad about this, right? And they were hoping I make it back somehow. They had made all sort of assumptions about my existence now. Fine, if I'm dead or alive. So by 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. in the night, 8 p.m. is too late in the mountains. Everybody sleeps around 6 or 7, right? In the high mountain, high altitude. They see from a kilometer away my headlamp flashing. So the moment they saw my headlamp flashing, they gave an indication with their headlamp that we have received you and we are there to help you and we are coming closer to you. So I proceeded towards my base camp. We received each other. They were very happy to see me back. I handed over the medicine to them, and one of them was literally with eyes full of tears. He couldn't imagine that somebody could go for fetching medicine for him, right? Because in the mountains, I have seen people literally not giving even a drop of water to a dying person. Everything is so calculated. In the Everest, you will find so many dead people, and most of them have died because nobody offered help to them. And I have come across a lot of such stories. They are real life stories, and
So
definitely that cook.
basically, compassion is very important as
Yeah,
well,
very
and
important.
survival. And
Yeah,
survival. Yeah.
yeah.
What a thrilling
Even if I
story.
took, even if I took that call of helping him out of the way, I was very calculative of my time, my resources, and other risk factors.
Yeah. We should make a Nat Geo film on survival. Like how you were narrating it. And it was like that whole thing was like Shahid jumping over the crevices and flying across the glacier, those images. Yeah. And
It was actually because I had to cover the time. I
yeah.
was very short of time, and I had to increase my speed.
And it's a very important thing what you talked about the glacier, because in 2017, was it 2017, 18, Rajiv and
Yeah.
I and my son and his kids, we went to Spiti, and we reached a place called Chatrunala. And uh, when whoever has been to Spiti would know that you have to cross the streams before 12 midday. And the reason is that the glaciers melt and these idly piddly streams become almost like raging rivers. And you
Yes.
have to cross them before 12. If you do not do that, you're doomed. And that's why
Yeah.
calculation of time and speed and knowing your terrain before you
Yeah.
embark on your journey is very important.
Yeah.
And little
Yeah.
things like biscuit and undertaking a journey for acidity pills. I'm sure you always keep them with you now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I had them. I had, but maybe I had not. I didn't had them in appropriate number.
Mhm.
But when I found that we need it, the cook needs it, so I had to go.
Okay. And another thing,
In fact, I tell you.
hmm,
In fact, I tell you, in case you don't have acidity pills, always take this. What we call it, garlic.
garlic.
Yeah. If you
Okay.
eat garlic, raw garlic, burn it little bit. The garlic always solves the acidity problem.
And it keeps people away from you also. It's very good for social distancing nowadays,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I have tried garlic, and it
Mhm.
does helps in emergency.
Okay. And another
Yeah.
thing that you talked about, your cook falling sick. I'm dealing with the cook issue myself right now, not here, but in the Himalayas, where the cook
Yeah.
was decided to be drunk, for three
Yeah.
days. So I had to organize a cook. What happens? Okay. And this is important because a lot of people who climb to be high on Himalayas take it literally, that not only being high, but being high on a different zone. Have you encountered people who have kind of downplayed a whole climbing expedition and engaged in spurious drinking and have had major issues, of course, dehydration? But how have you handled a drunk person, and and why this kind of indiscipline on climbing mountains is so serious an affair? If you could comment on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So personally, I have always been very careful about my companions. Luckily, I would say not luckily, or maybe whatever you want to call it, I have never been with people, those who I sense novice. If I feel they are unreliable people, they are not serious towards themselves, definitely they will not be serious towards the team and serious towards others, even to me even. But yes, I have seen people with bad teams, and I've seen people indulging themselves in the things that they should not. One of them is drinking. Like I said before, noisy behavior in my presentation. Most people, when they reach in the mountains, they want to release, but there's releasing your stress, releasing your emotions in the mountains comes with time, right? You understand that shouting is definitely not recommended thing. Just recently, I was back from the Kareri village trek, which is in Dharamshala. Over there in the night, I was just about to prepare for my camp in the night. We were pitching the tent. Another group of people from Delhi, they come, 2 to 3 people. And the moment they start pitching their tent, by the help of their tour operator, the guide, they started shouting badly, singing songs in the jungle in that particular region. Firstly, it disturbed the nearby camp people, those who got really furious because they were resting now because they were exhausted by the day. Secondly, they were drinking, and what happened, I suggested the other guide to recommend them not to drink because they'll fall in trouble. In the night, what happened, when they were drunk, they were definitely out of their senses. They got hypothermic. Now their shivering was out of control. They were maybe in stage 2 of hypothermia. Once they were drunk, they had no sense of their well-being. They were rescued immediately. So in this particular situation, what I realized, that it is very important to choose a right, trek leader or guide who gives the instructions, firmly and clearly. And anybody not abiding by those instructions is turned around, because it's a matter of everybody's safety. So everybody has to understand what is being said and why it is being said, right? So that's how things go bad, and that's how I've dealt with things. A lot of people do these things. Drinking is very common in the mountains, especially by those people, those who are novice, those who don't understand the risk factors. Once you're experienced, you go through the trouble, you don't do it. And people, those who already understand what could be the consequences, they don't do it even.
Thanks so much for sharing that bit. That experience is so important. And yeah, like little things like, walking on bridle paths, those narrow places, and if you have
Yeah,
animals coming, knowing which
yeah,
side to stand. A lot of times when I'm walking, and when earlier I had no clue about the mountains, I would always go as a novice. And it's so important to know people. So like I would go with Rajiv's family to villages, learn about the local traditions and all, what to do, what not to do. So now I'm sensitized. So
yeah,
sensitization to the culture, to do's
yeah,
and don'ts, is very important. So if there are no more questions, and I know, I'm so happy, Shahid, that in spite of a blackout in Chamba, we can
yeah,
still see your face illuminated and us all enlightened. That's the power of
yeah,
knowledge post Diwali. Right?
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I really want, like, all of you who are present here, thanks so much for coming in and being a part of this, so such an important talk about the Himalayas. And again, Shahid, I and Rajiv, we work together to curate expeditions and training also.
yeah,
So those of you, we will be posting those things in the coming months. I think in January or February, subject to everybody's schedule. And those of you who want to join us, you please do that. We'll be posting things, and be in touch with all of us. And Shahid, I will actually post Shahid's website and his Instagram, and also you can follow him. And I highly recommend him for those of you who are interested in hiking. And Shahid, we have this tradition that before we go, you have to give us words of wisdom. Wow, as I call it. Wow.
Yeah,
Words of wisdom for those of you who are in attendance.
yeah. So I'll just give me a moment. I'll just disconnect the call, right?
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
coming back in a second.
okay. So golden words are always spoken like this, a brief pause. And yeah. So those of you who don't know,
Yeah,
Shahid lives in Chamba. It is rich with
yeah.
cultural heritage, the temples of Chamba, and very close to the border as well, not too far. Like if you trek up, you actually can reach the other side, right? So yes, Shahid, words of wisdom.
Well, I will share with you something that has that I follow in my personal life. This very basic thing, that is, I personally go for my aim in life is mental, physical, moral, and spiritual excellence. Overall excellence in each and every aspect. Stay ready for everything. Be capable in each and every aspect of life you can be. Like I said, if you're mentally strong, physically weak, it's of no use. If you're physically strong, mentally weak, again, it's no use. Balance must be maintained. The goal of life is to reach the balance. If there is no balance, then things are going bad. So attain balance.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who keep joining us every Sunday, we'll take a brief hiatus in the month of November. We are curating talks for December, January, February. So next Sunday, we won't be having any session. So if you miss us, that's a good thing. And if you don't miss us, that's really sad. But we will be back with more engaging talks like this very one, which is actually an icing on the cake. Because when we talk of the Himalayas, how can we talk about the Himalayas without the experience of climbing these majestic mountains? So thank you so much, Shahid. I will be posting your talk and the previous 3 talks that we've had um, very shortly. And I'm so happy that you came and gave us all this knowledge and the stories, like truly amazing. Thank you for
Thank you
what you
very much.
do.
Thank you very much, Nali, for having me. Thank
Yeah,
you everyone for coming and wish you good luck.
thank you. Bye.